Hi everyone. So I was just talking with my colleagues because I'm going to have to help administer and grade a standardized exam here. And this will be my first time doing it. And in part of the oral English exam, they were saying that you can grade for things like behavior and appearance during the oral exam. So we started talking about how that's going to be graded, because obviously I come from a different culture, so things that they would be looking for I might not necessarily be looking for. Like they said, are you properly greeted by the student? Is the student's shirt properly buttoned? How is their hair cut? And these aren't things that I would be paying attention to during the administration of an exam based on my own cultural context. I would be saying, have you answered the questions on the text correctly? So we started talking about that, and it made me think about a lot of the different cultural nuances here that are so different from the one in which I was raised, which is American culture. I was asking my colleagues, how am I supposed to grade them on comportment when you guys are mentioning things that don't necessarily bother me? I said, I don't really care if my student asks me how I slept last night. And if he doesn't ask me that, I'm not going to grade him down on the oral part of his exam. And they said, well, and I put forth the scenario. So, well, what if a kid nails it? He answers every question correctly. He gets 20 out of 20, but he has a funny zigzag part shaved into his hair. And they said, well, I would downgrade him on that, because here the way you present something is everything. And I'm looking around and I said, well, I don't think that's necessarily true. I said, I feel like it doesn't necessarily matter what someone or something looks like on the outside. If the kid gets a perfect score, you have to give him a perfect score, even if he comes with blue or green hair. What difference does that make if he's mastered the material? And they were horrified by that. It's a little bit tricky is because I come from outside of this culture, so things that I'm apparently supposed to be looking for if I'm a Burkinabe teacher is something that will probably go right over my head based on my American cultural foundation. So, for instance, they gave the example of proper greeting. Okay, so I'm from the Midwest. If you see somebody, you speak to them. Hi, how you doing? But you don't have to draw it out. You can just nod, wave, whatever. Greetings are extremely important in this part of the world, in Africa in general, but in the Malinke region, the Julufone region of western Burkina Faso where I live, and even eastern Burkina Faso, greetings are very, very, very important. Sometimes greetings can take several minutes. You ask, how did you sleep? How did you wake up? How were your dreams? How are those who slept in the household with you? How is your health? How is your work, your activities, your family's work, your family's activities, your mother, your father? Like, all of this is just one greeting. And it cracks me up. Like, oftentimes when I'm talking to my students, again, the language in which we do the majority of our communication is not the first language of any of us. So for me, it's very important that I make eye contact with my students and that they speak clearly so that I can be sure that we are mutually understood. Whereas here, again, because of the social status thing, my students look down when they speak to me. They don't make eye contact. And when they will talk like this in a really low voice with their head down. And it makes it difficult for me to understand. And I told them, I said, I understand that is the general procedure with you and your other teachers, but I need you to look at me because I can't really understand you otherwise. So that was it took a lot of getting used to between my students and me, but now they know Madame prefers you to recklessly eyeball her. Look her in her face because she won't understand what you're saying otherwise. And just there's a couple other little things that people here do that to me seem very bizarre and quite possibly rude and impolite, but are just par for the course here. I'll give a couple of examples, like interrupting people. Here, there's no problem interrupting someone. So if you see someone talking, you can walk right in the conversation, even if it's just to say hello, especially if it's just to say hello. if I go talk to the director of my clinic and he's in the exam room, like I'll usually just sit outside and wait, and people come out like, well, why are you waiting? Are you sick? And I'm like, well, no, I just wanted to talk to the clinic director about a project. And they're like, well, just go in. I'm like, he's doing an exam on someone. People are like, and? So there's that. And then another thing that kids do here is, like, if they come to my house and my phone is sitting down on the table, like, they'll just pick my phone up and just go through the whole thing. They'll read all my messages, even though my messages are usually in English. Like, they'll read my text messages, they'll go through my contacts, see who I've been calling, what games I have, what... And for me, like, the average American, if you pick up their phone and start going through it, like, they would probably, like, punch you in the face. Like, you just don't do that. But here it's just normal. And I'm like, why are you going through my phone? Like, because it was on the table. My favorite thing, like, being a teacher here, which seems really strange a lot of the times that they do this, but, like, kids just come by and just hang out. And, like, when I was in school, the last thing I would want to do is come sit and hang in my teacher's house. Like, if there's no school today, why am I going to the teacher's house? And they don't want to do anything. They just sit there and just watch you. And just sit there and watch you. And just sit there and watch you for hours and hours and hours. And if you say, well, I'm going to go inside and take a nap, they'll say, well, I'll just take a nap right here on your patio. And I'm like, well, that was your cue to leave. They don't leave. And then, too, there's a lot of things that I do that people here consider strange. Like here, you're sort of expected in Village to just go sit at people's house. Like, you don't have to want anything. You don't have to tell them that you're coming. You can come as legitimate to show up at their house at 6 in the morning. And you just go and be like, hey. And you just sit there. And you can sit there all day if you want. They feed you. Like, I didn't really do stuff like that in America. Like, I don't just go sit at people's houses. It seems odd to me for no reason. So, but the fact that I don't do it, they find that strange here. I also wear shorts. Women here don't wear shorts. Grown men here don't wear shorts. Whereas I have some khaki shorts that I kick around Village in, and they think it's just the strangest thing ever. They're like, well, why don't you at least wrap something around your waist? Because shorts are ugly. Shorts are for little boys. And things like building a fire. I like to do little bonfires in my yard, which they think is just completely crazy. Like here, if you're going to build a fire, you're going to build it for boiling water or cooking rice. Like, there's to be a legitimate reason for you to make a fire, not just because the moon is full and I thought it would be pretty to sit next to it. When I give that reason, they look at me like... Even something as simple as speaking English with my mother. I know my mom called me once, and, you know, I was with some of my students, and, you know, I greeted her, said, hey, Mom, I'm with some of my kids. I'll give you a call back. Is everything okay? That type of deal. And when I hung up the phone, my kids were like, you speak to your mother in English? And I said, yes. And they said, well, but what's your native language? And I said, well, I'm American. My native language is English. And they said, but that's what you speak at home. And I said, yes, we speak English at home. And they're like, but what language does your mother speak? And I said, my mom doesn't speak any language other than English. They're like, but you speak French. And I said, yeah, because my parents got me tutors. They're like, but you said you speak Spanish too. And I said, yeah, because I studied it at school. And they said, but you also know Jula. I said, well, I'm here, so I'm learning Jula with you guys. Like, but what is your real native language? And I said, my first language is, in fact, English. There are millions and millions and millions of other black people who live in the United States. It is not just Barack Obama and me. So it's, you know, it's really interesting. I'm kind of sort of looking forward to see how this is going to play out with me being chosen to grade this. Because I'm a pretty easygoing person. I've lived outside cultural context pretty much my entire life. So I feel like I give people a little bit more room to be weird, whatever weird is. So hopefully for my students' sake and my own sake, I've done okay as a teacher. and that they have retained some of what I tried to teach them. I don't think I can bring myself to diminish their grade based on where or how their hair is parted. But if they have remembered even a little bit of what I've been working on with them this last couple of years, I will consider that a success, and that's how I'm going to grade. So I wish all my kids the best, and I hope this goes well for them, and that they continue on and make the best and the most out of their studies, because I love my kids. I'm crazy about these kids that I've been with for the last 2 years here. So we'll see. Du courage, mes élèves.